Okay. Hi, it's Mama Lewis again. Thanks for checking in on us. Today I thought, since the last couple vlogs I was just kind of rambling, I thought might as well talk to you guys, since that's what I want to do, about just things that I really wanted to talk about and really appreciate and thank all the moms out there who did this before me. But I'm a first-time mom. This is the first time that I've been able to have a child, and I love her to death. She is everything for me, and I know how difficult it is for first-time moms to conceive, to oh no, okay, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. But what was I saying? I wanted to share our birth story. Emma here is now 5 months old, and I think we've just been so lucky to have her in our lives, and I wanted to share my anxieties, my stresses, because I know that a lot of moms out there felt the same way when they had realized they were pregnant for the first time. So yeah, I was one of those moms that I really do feel like knowledge is key, and I ended up doing a lot of research and reading about how I wanted to labor and deliver. I wanted to choose the best options, and also realistically the most affordable options. I am a school teacher, so I do have insurance, and I'm covered through Kaiser. So I wanted to know more about what Kaiser would be able to do in case I wanted to, deliver standing or on all fours. And I had all these questions about like what's actually happening with all the tests they're taking, and is it necessary? So I did a lot of research, but more than anything, for my mental and my mental well-being, I actually watched a ton of YouTube videos, and all the moms out there who put their stories on YouTube, I really appreciate that, because everything from home births to birthing centers to hospital births to medicated and unmedicated births, and induced labor or naturally induced labor, or I learned so much from you guys, and it really set me at ease, because it was so difficult for me to conceive before, and now that I knew that I was going to have one, and she was that she was coming, I wanted to make sure I did the best. I set it up the best I could. I tried everything, to like meditation and taking time for myself, so that I was mentally ready and happy, emotionally happy. I did keep very active, though. I did believe that it was important for me, because for my mental well-being too, I needed to stay active. I did almost everything that I could, unless I couldn't bend over. Like I got stuck in a bathtub, bent over bathtub, like cleaning the bathtub once, or like I couldn't get the laundry out of the deep well. So certain things had to change, but I did try to do most of it myself. I ended up trying to walk like 10,000 steps every day. So that was really important, because my doctor had said that I am a little bit older, so it is a high-risk pregnancy through age. Based on my BMI, I'm overweight, so the baby, we were worried that we'd have like gestational diabetes, which we didn't. And I think that it helped that I had a lot of food aversions, and and it's not that I didn't eat. Yeah, it's not that I didn't eat. I definitely ate. for the third trimester especially, all she wanted was like seafood and like spicy kimchi noodles and stuff like that. It was actually really great. Yeah. So what ended up happening at 38 weeks, I was on my leave, my disability leave, and I was walking around the park, and I had watched some videos about how like if you walk on the curb, like curb walking, one leg on the curb and the other on the pavement or the street, that it was to help set your hips and get a better position for the baby and prepare for delivery. I had also taken advantage of a chiropractor here in this area who was well trained in the Webster technique, and she helped flip my baby when she was transverse. So I did everything that I could to help make labor and delivery as easy as possible. And at around 38 and a half weeks, I still had not felt any contractions or Braxton Hicks. People were saying like, oh, you'll feel it, da da da. Felt nothing. I was one of those like freaked out moms too that was like, is she even alive? Like, is she moving? Like, I didn't feel anything. The only thing that made me feel better was just trusting my body and trusting that the doctor's appointments that I was actually going to, and hearing and seeing the ultrasounds that I would get. I think I got like 2 or 3 ultrasounds. Those were like basically the only times that I could actually like see the baby. I didn't feel any kicking or anything. So, I mean, well, I felt some kicking after near the end, third trimester, like the last couple weeks. And inside, I felt like there were flutters every once in a while, but my husband said he couldn't feel anything. So, so I didn't know what to expect. I looked up everything. I'm like, what does a contraction feel like? What is it compared to? And they're like, oh, it feels like a period cramp. And I'm like, well, what is a period cramp? I don't know what that is either. So I'm like, oh. By the time I had finished the baby room, I love it. All of my friends donated boxes and boxes of clothes. I had bags, like tons of clothes. I even got a crib from one of my teacher friends. I am so appreciative, like all of these things. I was setting up the room, and I had to move like a ton of the clothes out into the living room, and just to get the baby room ready. Which, okay, the baby room, it's great to get it ready, but she does not stay in the baby room almost ever. So really that's a diaper changing room right now and like a little play area. So I take it back. She actually started sleeping in the crib for her naps. So that's actually not true. But right away in the beginning you don't want to let your newborn go. So your newborn is not in that room. That for weeks, at my 38 and a half weeks, I finally finished the room, and I was so excited. I had taken pictures and put it on Instagram, and I was like, oh, we're so ready for you. We're so ready for this little one to come. And we started eating dinner. We started eating dinner, and I sat on my yoga ball while we were eating dinner because I didn't use a chair at that point. My back was starting to like get a little achy. So I sat on my yoga ball, and suddenly I pissed myself or something. Like I kind of like stood up and got stunned, and my husband's like, what? And I couldn't speak. I just kind of like shuffled into the bathroom right away because 1, I was embarrassed. 2, I didn't really know what was happening. 3, ew, it was kind of an ill moment. So I was okay. So I sat on the toilet, and I couldn't control it. Like it was just gushing out. Like someone had turned on a water faucet, and I couldn't turn it off. Like I just that's the only way I can explain it. By the way, this might get a little graphic, so if you're uncomfortable with this, I should have said that earlier. I know. I should have said that earlier. It might get a little graphic. You might not like it. You probably shouldn't watch this. Okay. But anyways, I ended up taking a shower, and because I still had felt no contractions, I ended up just taking I know. I ended up just taking a shower, and I actually put some makeup on because I was like, if I'm delivering today, if I have to go to the hospital and stay in the hospital because my water broke, I want to get my eyebrows on. I want to get a little, you know, get a little eye makeup or something, just so I don't look like tired. Oh, bless you. Bless you. Bless you. You okay? You okay? Oh my gosh, did you want to tell this story? Yeah. You want to tell this story? Okay, you tell the story. Of course. Break and you have to stay. I really wanted to labor at home. I wanted to do like an unmedicated delivery and just labor at home. But because my water broke before my contractions started, it was too late. Okay, so they actually, I remember them saying that, you know, this process, having a baby is like a marathon. So it's going to take hours and hours. And I was expecting possibly 24 hours, you know, of labor. So I turned on my, it's like hypnobirthing, like app, and it had like these breathing exercises, and I just went to sleep. And I got myself in a very meditative state, and I kind of felt like out of body. I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. It sounds really foo-foo-y and weird, but I like legitimately I went to sleep listening to this breathing exercises, and I was just breathing in and breathing out, really deep belly breathings. And after 2 hours, the nurse is like, oh, are you feeling the contractions? And I was like, no, I don't know what contraction feels like. So, and she's like, oh, these blips on your monitor, those are contractions. You started having contractions. And I said, okay, I still don't really feel anything. So, and so they gave me another little, another little tiny pill. It looked like actually like a pill they had diced up into like a bunch of pieces, because it was like a little like flake of a pill. So anyways, I took that pill also. There were actually 2 pills in each of those things. I think one, I don't know, there were 2 little flakes. Okay, so I end up going back into my hypnobirthing exercises, and I don't remember how long I was doing the hypnobirthing, because you get put in kind of like a state, like I kind of was like really deep into this meditative state. And I started walking around, and at that point I think my husband did wake up, because he was sleeping the whole time in the like kind of couch thing next to the bed. So but I remember like just kind of walking around, and at that time I was like, oh, I think I feel the contractions now. I think this is a contraction. And it just feels like someone squeezing a little bit on the inside of your lower abdomen and even upper abdomen. It's like someone's going like this, squeezing you, just, you know, and then it goes away. And when it goes away, I just go back into the deep breathing, and every time I felt the contraction, I just breathed. I took a deep breath and kind of pushed this sounds really weird, pushed my breath down to my uterus, imagining that I'm pushing the air in and like breathing out of down there. So it was a very weird, it's a weird way to explain it, but and every time I would have a contraction in my mind, I'm telling myself, like, open your hips, like imagine that you are widening your hips and pushing your baby out, because with each contraction, that's what's happening. It's the muscles kind of just helping your baby get lower and lower, right? And I'm just assisting it with my breath and relaxing my body. I definitely did not tense my body anywhere, so that it made it very smooth, because from the moment I went into the hospital to where I was fully transitioned, I think it was like 8 hours, about 8 hours. And at that point, at one point, I was breathing, and my husband was helping me doing some counter pressures, because the contractions were starting to get more intense. And it got to a point where I said, you know, if it's going to keep getting like this intense, maybe I should get the epidural. Like, maybe I should. And so I said to the nurse, I said, can you check to see how far I am? Like, how dilated am I? Like, how am I fully effaced? Like, what's happening? Because they try not to like fiddle around in there as much as they can. They kind of want to let your body do what your body's doing. And I knew that they would only check if I asked. Okay, so back to this, going to the nurse. The nurse and the midwife, they came in and they checked, and they're like, oh, you're like 100% effaced and about 7 centimeters dilated. So that was the reason why it was suddenly getting more and more intense. It's because I had transitioned. And transition is when, I mean, basically your baby's coming. So I had gotten up, bouncing on the ball some more, doing some deep breathing. I'd gotten on all fours, you know, moving my hips, swinging my hips from side to side. My husband was continually pushing on my hips to give me some counter pressure while I was going through contractions. And finally I felt like, I wouldn't say it was pain in my lower back, but I did feel like something was there. Something was like really low. And I started like moaning a little bit louder. Kind of like that. Oh no, I'm not. I was doing like guttural moaning, really deep guttural moaning. And they say that when you do the guttural moaning, it is better because it's actually really, my goodness. She wants to play. I'm gonna have to come back and finish the story later. Okay, she's really got things to say today, apparently. So, anyways, I was walking around, right, and I suddenly felt some pain in my lower back, but it wasn't like pain. It was like a lot of pressure, and I got up, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and call the midwife because the baby's coming. So I stood up, and they were rearranging the bed because they take out like the foot part of the bed. I was not super aware of what was going on at that time. I was really focused on my breathing and really relying on my husband to like, you know, make sure everything was okay. So I was holding on to him, and I had my arms on his shoulders, leaning on him, and suddenly I felt something drop, like to like my uterine wall, like uterine floor. And I was like, the baby's coming. So at this point, other than the Cytotec, like the ripening stuff, you know, I don't know, the little flaky pills, I think it was like a Cytotec type. I don't think it was Cytotec, but it was like, it's from the same, it does the same thing. Okay, so I basically was like, the baby's coming, and I tried to squat down on the floor because I really could feel the contractions better when I was standing or on all fours. When I was on my back, I didn't feel the contractions very good, and so I started to kind of squat, and they're like, no, get on the bed. And I said, I want to do it on all fours, or I want to do it standing. I can't feel it on my back. And I told them that. I said, I can't really feel the contractions on my back. And then they said, well, it's easier for us if you could just try to do it on your back. And I was like, oh, fuck. You know, I didn't want to, but I did, only because the baby was coming. Like, I think if I argued a little longer standing there, the baby would have just fallen out. But I got on the bed and put my legs up, and that also weirded me out because I did not want my husband to see all of that happening. I didn't know if I was going to rip. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I got to that position, was very vulnerable. But even after the first push, with the contraction. You push with the contraction. So they're like, okay, you let us know when you're ready to push, because you can feel everything. And I was like, okay. So when I felt the contraction, I pushed with the contraction, and after the first push, the midwife says, do you want to feel your baby's head? And I was like, what? So I reached down, and definitely the top, like there was like a little part of her head like at the top, and it was like hair, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it was so motivating. And after 3 more pushes, she came out completely. Like it was a rush. It was amazing. And what they don't tell you, and what a lot of moms in these birthing videos don't tell you, and probably because it is pretty graphic, and I apologize if you don't want to hear super graphic things, I would just fast forward this video or move on, okay? But there was like, after her came like a gush of fluid, and I don't see what it is. I don't know what the fluid is, but my husband did, and I commend him for not making a face. He didn't look away from my face and look shocked or anything. He was smiling. He was like very proud of me, and he just held my hand and told me how good I was doing, because apparently it's a lot of blood, like super, like it felt like someone had flushed the toilet and the water was just going. And I thought it was just like the normal fluids, like, she is in fluid like the whole time in your belly, but it's not. It is blood. And for me in particular, I had a lot of blood. I was actually a little anemic by the end, because my placenta didn't detach naturally. So they had to stick their hands inside. My husband said that they went all the way to their elbows, and they were like ripping the placenta off of my uterine wall. And then later on, they I didn't get to, they put the baby on my chest initially, but they had to take her off and let my husband carry her, because they were still in there. And I was left, like, them digging in there for about an hour to make sure everything was clear. And they even took like an ultrasound. They called in a specialist, like another doctor, to get a second opinion to make sure they didn't leave any of the placenta in there. And then finally I got to hold her. I finally got a chance to hold her and try to nurse, and it was amazing. And I think, those of you that know me personally, I've pretty much said this every time, but I distinctly remember looking at my husband saying, holy crap, like, we're doing this again. Like, this is amazing. This is the whole experience, the whole labor and delivery, even though it didn't happen perfectly as I planned. I didn't get to labor at home. I didn't get to do a water, thing. I didn't even want water. You never know what it's going to be like until you're actually in it. And I did not want to get in that shower. There was a shower available there at Kaiser, and I did not want to get wet. More than anything, I was so focused on breathing and just pushing the baby through. I think by the time my water broke to the actual delivery was 10 hours, and she was on my chest, and that was it. And it was like, I can't believe it, of course. It's all kind of a blur, because it was 5 months ago. Anyways, thanks for listening to this story. I hope, if anything, anyone watching this, if you are planning on having a baby and you want to do it naturally, you can. If you want to do a medicated birth, you can. There's no right or wrong way. This way is the way I wanted to do it. I definitely wanted to do it unmedicated, but I was also flexible, and I knew that because my water broke and I wasn't having contractions, that I did have to take that pill, which is technically a medication, so I guess it wasn't fully unmedicated, but it worked out. And the point is, the point at the end is to come home with a beautiful, healthy baby. And I just feel so blessed and thankful, especially to all the moms out there that I watched all your videos. Mama Dr. Jones, I watched hers. Nurse Zabe, I watched hers. The doula, Bridget in San Francisco, I watched hers. Like every person, and every home birth, every person that did a home birth, holy smokes. Like I watched everything, and I appreciate you guys for doing that, because it made me feel so much more confident to be able to have this little one. So, all right, enough of my rambling. Thank you so much for checking on us at the Lewis house, and we'll see you for next time, I guess. Hopefully this was not as boring as the last video, although I am a pretty boring person, so keep watching if you like things that are boring.